Okay, friends. You guys see the book up on the board?
Yeah.
Now, our friend Ross found this book in our library, the library right behind me. He found this book, and do you know what I saw in this book? Kinsler, what? Why do you think it's so special?
That I have this book at home.
So, this week we've been learning about
The magic egg.
magic
E.
makes.
Snake.
This book has lots of magic E's making long A sounds. That's why I picked this book. I'm going to use our tool, our reading tool, to follow along with our lines. When I ask questions, please raise your hands if you have an idea. Are we ready?
Yes.
Make a trade. Charlie Brown. This is Charlie Brown. He's the manager of a baseball team. They have never won a game. He needs to make a change. Lucy is the worst player on his team. I'm thinking of making some changes, Charlie Brown says. What kind of changes? Lucy asks. I'm going to trade some players, Charlie Brown tells her. A few trades can make our team much better. That's a great idea, Lucy says. Why don't you trade yourself? Charlie Brown calls Peppermint Patty. Would you like to trade any players? He asks. I don't know, Chuck, she says. The only good player you have is that little kid with the big nose. You mean Snoopy? Charlie Brown says. I was thinking more of Lucy. Charlie Brown hears a click. Peppermint Patty is hung up. Why do you guys think she hung up? Adelie, what's your idea? Why do you think that she hung up?
Because Lucy is their worst player.
Because Lucy is the worst player they have. Is she going to want the worst player on her team?
Yeah.
Nah. The next day, Charlie Brown tells Linus about the phone call. Peppermint Patty only wants Snoopy. I told her no, but maybe I was wrong. Linus is surprised. Show me surprised. You would trade your own dog just to win a few baseball games, he says. Charlie Brown's eyes grow wide. Win, he says. Have you ever noticed what a beautiful word that is? Win, win, win. Everybody, win, win, win. The next day, Charlie Brown calls Peppermint Patty. I'll trade Snoopy, he says. Great, says Peppermint Patty. I'll give you 5 players for Snoopy. It's a deal. Charlie Brown hangs up the phone. Good grief. I've traded away my own dog, Charlie Brown thinks. I've become a real manager. What does he feel?
Sad.
Yeah.
Because what's
Javentus, may I ask you to please close the door? Peppermint Patty has the contract ready for Charlie Brown to sign. Charlie Brown is nervous. Try not to let your hand shake so much, Chuck, Peppermint Patty says. Why do you think his hand is shaking? Corey, why do you think his hand is shaking? Because he doesn't want to trade Snoopy. He's probably kind of feeling nervous, huh? Charlie Brown has to tell Snoopy, "This is hard for me to say. I've traded you for 5 new players. Please don't hate me, Snoopy." Bleh, responds Snoopy. Everybody do it. Bleh. His face is kind of funny when he does that, huh? Charlie Brown tells Schroeder the news. Schroeder is shocked. "You traded your own dog," he said. "Does winning a ball game mean that much to you?" "I don't know. I've never won a ball game," Charlie Brown replies. Linus is upset. "I don't even want to talk to you, Charlie Brown," he says. "And stop breathing on my blanket," Linus yells. What is Linus's feeling? Why do you think he's mad, Hannah?
Because he's mad.
Why is he mad? What did Charlie Brown do that made him so mad, Hannah?
Because he was trading his dog.
Because he traded Snoopy, huh?
That was the best player.
And Snoopy was a good player. Charlie Brown runs back to Snoopy's doghouse. "I was wrong," he says to Snoopy. I could never trade you. Look, the deal's off." He rips up the contract in front of Snoopy. Suddenly, Peppermint Patty appears at his side. She sees the ripped up contract. "I guess you got my message, Chuck," she says. "The deal is off." "Those players said they would quit baseball before they played on your team." "Sorry, Chuck. I hope you aren't too angry." So why do you think that Peppermint Patty's players didn't want to switch to Charlie Brown's team? I'll give you some time to think. If you were on a winning team and you were told that you had to go to some other team, how would you feel? Would you want to trade?
No.
Adelie?
Probably not.
Probably not. Cameron?
No.
No. Kensler?
I would feel nice in trade.
You would be nice and you would trade? All right.
And me.
Evan?
I would be nice in trade.
You'd be nice to trade, so some of us would want to trade. Well, the players on Peppermint Patty's team are saying, "No way, we're not going to switch our winning team to go to a losing team." "I'm crushed," Charlie Brown says. But he doesn't really mean it. Let's look at his face. How do we know he doesn't mean it? He's smiling. He's so thrilled. So is Snoopy. Snoopy is so happy, he starts dancing. Meanwhile, Peppermint Patty has a problem with her team too. Marcy is her right fielder. She is as bad as Lucy. "I hate baseball," Marcy shouts. Peppermint Patty calls Charlie Brown with an idea. "I'll trade you Marcy for Lucy," she says. "Great," Charlie Brown says. "I'll trade Lucy for anyone." "You traded me for Marcy?" Lucy says. "You made a terrible deal. Marcy is awful." "No, it's a good deal," Charlie Brown says. Peppermint Patty threw in a pizza. Marcy loves being on Charlie Brown's team. There's just one problem. She never leaves the pitcher's mound. She likes being close to Charlie Brown.
But why?
Why do you think?
I don't know.
Well, let's read on and see if we find out why Marcy wants to stay close to Charlie Brown. Maybe we'll get our question answered.
Crush on Charlie Brown.
Oh, that could be it, Juventus.
Some
All right.
of these books do say that.
Marcy, you're supposed to be in the right field, Charlie Brown says. "I'm happier when I'm near you, Charlie," Marcy tells him. So why does she want to stay near him? Corey? Because it makes her feel... Okay, I'm going to read it again. I'm happier when I'm near you, Charles, Marcy tells him. Marcy wants to stay close to Charlie Brown because he makes her feel... I've always been fond of you. Lucy isn't working out for Peppermint Patty either. Just keep your eye on the ball, she tells Lucy. So Lucy stares at the ball in Peppermint Patty's hand. Is that what she meant? No. It's so hard to keep my eye on the ball when you keep moving around, Lucy says. Later that night, Peppermint Patty calls Charlie Brown. You need to take Lucy back, Chuck, Peppermint Patty says. Why? Asks Charlie Brown. Lucy is the worst player I've ever had, Peppermint Patty tells him. But I already ate the pizza, Charlie Brown says. Charlie Brown tells Marcy she's been traded back too. Peppermint Patty's... I'm going to read that again. Charlie Brown tells Marcy she's been traded back to Peppermint Patty's team. Marcy is sad over the deal. Why does Marcy feel sad she's been traded back?
Because she was the nicest player.
Why is she sad, Ross?
Because she got comfortable on Charlie Brown's team.
Yeah, she felt comfortable on Charlie's team. I guess I wasn't much help, Marcy says to Charlie Brown. I didn't score a single goal. Charlie Brown doesn't bother telling Marcy goals are in soccer, not baseball. It's Lucy's first game back on Charlie Brown's team. She's holding an umbrella over her head. A ball bounces off the umbrella. It's not even raining, shouts Charlie Brown. Not yet, says Lucy. Suddenly, it starts to pour. The entire team runs for cover, except for Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown is getting soaked, but he doesn't care. His team is back together, and they can't lose the game. It's a rain out. The end. Good? Liked our book? Awesome.